The Xbox Metaverse, it's real. The term metaverse is a term, well, that's been tossed around quite a bit lately, but we are getting a first-hand look at what a true Xbox metaverse would be like. Today, Microsoft, as part of their 20th anniversary celebration, has launched a digital curation museum that you can go explore, and it feels a lot like the future of a metaverse. Now, to get started, you can go on over to museum.xbox, or you can stick around here as we do a digital walkthrough, but you're going to want to check it out yourself, and we'll explain why here in just a second. So once you navigate over there, you'll see you can log in, which again, I highly recommend that you do because this will give you a personalized experience. Now, Microsoft very clearly says start here with the Xbox One, and this is the map as they call it. But I'm not one to follow rules, and so I'm going to start with my own personal museum, which I honestly think is probably the coolest part of this metaverse experience. So you click in here, and keep in mind, this is all in a browser. It took me a little bit to get used to the navigation, but what they have done here, especially in your personal museum, is personalize the experience. So this is my Xbox account that I've had for well over a decade, and they curate everything that I have done into sort of a unique experience here, and you can see it's pretty well thought out. This isn't something that Microsoft just hacked together in a weekend. This is pretty robust. It's a fully immersive experience. I guess the only way it could be better is if you had a VR headset on your over your eyeballs, for that matter. But you can see here it shows my achievements, it shows my most popular games, it shows my gamer score, it shows when I joined, which was back in 2004. It shows the most popular game that I have ever played on the Xbox platform, which is Smite. I haven't played it in several years, but when I did play it, I played the heck out of it. And you can see quite a few Call of Duty games in there, and you can see just some of the old achievements that I have in the first consoles, which was my Xbox One, and when you first logged into Xbox Live for the first time. It's a really neat experience. And so once you're done exploring your own little bit of history in the Xbox world, you can go back to the map, and then you can begin the journey of going through all the consoles, starting with, as you guessed it, the Xbox One. And so you just walk through here, and Microsoft has done a pretty darn good job of bringing together the history of the brand and the products and the major milestones. And I'm just going to be quiet here for a second and let you explore the metaverse through the magic of YouTube. And as you can see, it's worth pointing out that Microsoft didn't only talk about the highlights, the red ring of death there, which is pretty obvious, talks about some of the lowlights, and that's probably one of the lowest points in the Xbox history, but there's just a lot of content, and this is a bit of a speed run through the museums, but it's definitely something you'll want to take time and explore if you enjoy these sorts of things. You can see by just all the detail here in some of these exhibits, just the amount of effort and care that Microsoft actually did put into this. I mean, you can see some of the adaptive controller there. You've seen many other controllers, and just the experience is something that Microsoft truly put quite a bit of effort into. And that's why I really, really recommend you go check it out too, as are all these other people here in this Squid Game-like sort of experience. Moving on over to the current generation, the Xbox Series X and S, and this is probably the most robust timeline for obvious reasons. It's just happening. I will point out that they talked about the reveal of the Xbox Series X there, but I'm not seeing anything related to the Xbox Series S reveal, especially for people who have been following this channel. Surprised. See, it goes Series X reveal and a launch, but I'm pretty sure something notable happened in between there. I guess we're just not going to talk about the reveal of the Xbox Series S, but the Azure Connect does make the board for whatever reason. And so you can see that Microsoft really just wraps it up here and says the future lies beyond, which I will dive into here in just a second. But the Xbox Series X and S is still the exhibit, if you will, that is being created because we're in that current timeline. And so you can go through this light tunnel here and see a bunch of the content that is either happening through the document series that is coming up. And these all just take you to links to websites. So it does pull you out of the experience, but it's a kind of a neat way to navigate the web kind of in a realistic metaverse kind of way. And so if I click this here, you'll see, I believe I click it. I don't know if the recording pulls me over. Yeah. So you can see that it pulls you over. And so that's not what you want to do if you want to stay in the metaverse. Now, there is another way to explore some of this. You can see there's a timeline along the bottom. And so that timeline is a more linear way. But first, we will dive into the Halo experience and then go back to the timeline. So the Halo is very much exactly what you would expect. It's a timeline history of Halo and everything that is involved with that genre, really, if you will. And so you can see there's a bunch of statues. Again, just take your time. Don't do a speed run like I am doing here to create the content. You should really just take time and just go through and kind of experience this metaverse that Microsoft has created in the world of Xbox. And then here you can see that timeline that I referenced earlier. If you don't want to walk through the exhibits, you can see this in a more linear fashion and get all of your Xbox info that way. I couldn't figure out a quick way to do a smooth scroll from left to right. I'm good with top to bottom. But anyways, so you can go to that museum.xbox and then experience it through that sort of a linear fashion, if you will. But that, my friends, is probably for most of us one of the first experiences into a quote-unquote metaverse. It includes your own content, which is fantastic. It includes Microsoft Xbox and curated museum experience. And so it shows that Microsoft is really thinking about these novel and unique ways of presenting content. And so hopefully we'll see more of that in the world of Xbox. But it's more just sort of a look at, while it is technically a look back at the museum experience, it's also a bit of a look forward to to at the potential of how things could evolve in the world of Xbox. So head on over to museum.xbox or make sure to keep it subscribed here because the only BS on this channel is me.